Go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Your Honors, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
This is a
Morning.
continuation. This is a continuation of the public panel interview by the Judicial and Bar Council of candidates for the Legal Education Board Chairperson, regular member representing the Integrated Bar of the Philippines, and regular member representing the law students sector. But before proceeding, let's have first the centennial prayer for the courts.
Almighty God, we stand in your holy presence as our supreme judge. We humbly beseech you to bless and inspire us, so that what we think, say, and do will be in accordance with your will. Enlighten our minds, strengthen our spirit, and fill our hearts with fraternal love, wisdom, and understanding, so that we can be effective channels of truth, justice, and peace. In our proceedings today, guide us in the path of righteousness for the fulfillment of your greater glory. Amen.
Again, Your Honors, good morning.
Yes, good morning again.
The panel of interviewers for today
Morning.
will be the following. The Honorable Justice Jose Catral Mendoza, Chairperson of the Judicial and Bar Council Executive Committee, and regular member representing the retired members of the Supreme Court. The Honorable Judge Toribio E. Ilaw Jr., regular member representing the private sector. The Honorable Justice Noel Jimenez Tiham, regular member representing the Academy. And the Honorable Judge Franklin J. de Monteverde, regular member representing the Integrated Bar of the Philippines. Your honors for interview this morning are the following. Attorney Lorenzo R. Reyes, who is vying for the position of Chairperson of the Legal Education Board, and Mr. Earl Anthony V. Bautista as representative of the law students sector. May I request the candidates to please raise your right hand so that I can administer the oath? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this public panel interview by the Judicial and Bar Council?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, I do.
So help you God. Thank you. Your Honors, the first for interview this morning is Attorney Lorenzo R. Reyes. And the first to interview the candidates will be the Honorable Judge Franklin J. de Monteverde. Judge de Monteverde, sir.
Thank you, Ed. Attorney Ed.
Thank you po.
Good morning, Attorney Reyes.
Morning, Judge.
Okay. You were not certified to be either physically or medically fit. There was no certification. But there were findings in your lab tests. So how medically fit are you?
I am medically fit, Your Honor. I submitted my medical certificate, which attests to the fact that I'm medically fit and that I'm COVID-free. I had swab tests. I had
Okay.
all those tests, Your Honor.
No problem with that. No problem with that. What the problems are in your complete blood count, blood chemistry, ECG, and some chest X-ray. On complete blood count, your white blood cells are quite high. Who was your physician?
My physician
Who was
was
your
a
oh,
my physician was a cardiologist, Dr. Amir Bahar Karim with the Zampen. He was trained at St. Luke's, and he noticed that. But those are he said those are good cholesterol because you eat a lot of fish. Because my meal is not meat, but a lot of fish and vegetable. And he said those are good cholesterols.
Yeah, no problem with the cholesterols. Yung white blood cells mo mataas. Anyway, you had your physical medical checkup sa St. Luke's.
Sampen, Zamboanga Peninsula, Your Honor. Zamboanga Peninsula Hospital. And
Is that a government institution?
It's a private institution. And I was also
Private institution, not a government one.
And I was also examined by a government doctor of the Zamboanga General Medical Center, a government institution, Dr. Jose Leonardo Llanado.
Okay, noted. Are you a diabetic, attorney?
No, Judge, I'm not diabetic, completely healthy.
Yeah, but your glucose is high, your blood sugar.
Well, recently
These are the one I'm telling you are the results from your lab test taken sometime in 2 years ago.
Yeah.
20. Last year.
Last year, yes, sir, sometime August.
Oh.
But they have been corrected, I'm okay now.
So all of these have been corrected?
Yes, I have no
even
complaint at all.
Electrocardiogram?
Yes, sir, Your Honor. Completely, I am healthy.
Sinus rhythm? Okay. So,
okay.
Very healthy.
Very healthy.
Baka sinasabi mo lang yan sa interview ngayon. Ha?
Hindi po, I used to be an athlete
you
in
used
high
to be
school
an
and in
athlete,
college.
but you are not now.
Well,
you used to be an athlete,
jogging.
but you are not an athlete now.
Yes, Your Honor, but I keep my
Am I correct?
health. Yes, sir.
You are
yes,
68
sir.
years old.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, I have gone over your records and have noted or noticed that most of your work were in Mindanao. Are you from there?
Yes, I'm from the province of Tawi-Tawi, Your Honor, Judge. But I was with the Department of Agrarian Reform for almost 20 years, Manila, Diliman, Quezon City.
Manila. Okay.
Yes.
You were born in Bungao?
That's right, Your Honor. I was born in Tawi-Tawi. The grandson of a Thomasite teacher who volunteered as a teacher sometime in 1905 during the American regime.
So how are the seaweeds there? Still your number one product?
Yes, Your Honor. We are supposed to be the seaweeds. We boast of being the seaweeds capital of the Philippines. Because of seaweeds, we have no insurgency there. People are busy planting seaweeds.
Okay. Walang insurgency dyan? May mga kwad lang? Abu Sayyaf lang?
Wala po. Walang Abu Sayyaf sa Tawi-Tawi po. Sa Suluyan.
Wala?
Wala. Sa Suluyan.
Hindi na pupunta dyan?
Hindi na pupunta po because Tawi-Tawi po is populated by another tribe, the Sama tribe. And the Sama tribe hates very much the other tribe. So hindi sila makakapasok dyan. historically, we have been fighting, this our neighbors.
Okay.
So hindi sila po nakapapasok dyan. We are peace-loving. The Sama of Tawi-Tawi are very peace-loving.
Okay. So you are connected, attorney, with this Crown Investment Holdings Incorporated?
Yes, Your Honor.
In what way are you connected with it?
Well, they hired me as a legal consultant because Crown is engaged in the power distribution in Zamboanga City. And I had experience in power distribution sometime in 2003 to 2008 when I was designated as project supervisor by the no less than the President herself, President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, to oversee power distribution in Mindanao, especially in Muslim Mindanao, kasi hindi raw nagbabayad yung mga kababayan ko ng kanilang kuryente.
You are now based in Zamboanga.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. I'm here in Zamboanga City.
Okay. So how long have you been there?
When I retired from the Mindanao State University as Chancellor in 2017, March,
Sa Marawi.
no po,
Saan?
I was in Tawi-Tawi. We have another branch in
Tawi-Tawi.
Tawi, a
Okay.
big branch in Tawi-Tawi. But
Meron
I was,
may branch ba doon ang Mindanao State University?
meron po, we specialize in marine biology, fisheries,
Okay.
oceanography, and the study of seaweeds because of our location.
So how long have you been in practice, attorney?
When I finished law school, before the release of the bar examination, I had apprenticeship po with the late Senator Ambrosio Padilla.
Okay.
And then when I passed the bar, I had
When was that? When did you pass the bar?
1982 po, 1982.
82.
Yeah, I
Okay.
took the 81 budget, 81 bar exam.
Okay.
After my stint with Senator Padilla, because he specializes in civil law.
You just state the number of years that you have been in active practice.
More or less
How
around
long since 1982?
since maybe 4 to 5 years, because I became governor in 1986.
So between that period, have you ever taught in any of the law schools?
Yes, in fact, the University of the Philippines Law Center, I have been there from since 1990 up to 2000, 2010, and the San Sebastian, San Jorge College of Law. So almost 10 years with the San Sebastian Law School and more than 10 years with the UP Law Center, continuing legal education po.
But any law subjects are you teaching?
I taught
At the College of Law?
Yes po, agrarian law, administrative law, and constitutional law. And with San Sebastian, I taught local government code and criminal law 1, including ethics, legal ethics.
Okay, so you're still teaching now?
I'm here in Zamboanga, and the law schools here invited me to teach in the next semester, the Ateneo Zamboanga Law School and the Western Mindanao Law School. They invited me to teach next semester, and that is sometime in August.
You were formerly a member of the Board of Regents and Chancellor of Mindanao State University and the OIC President of Tawi-Tawi Regional Agricultural College. In what way can these experiences of yours help if ever you should be appointed?
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, that's the reason why I decided to apply for the chairpersonship of the Legal Education Board, because as Chancellor and Regent of the Mindanao State University and President of the State College, together with the Commission on Higher Education for 7 years and the Development Academy of the Philippines, we were engaged or involved in formulating policies and strategies on how to reform higher education in the Philippines. So we conducted several fora, seminars all throughout the country, including visit abroad in higher education. Me specifically, because I was chancellor of a school that specializes in marine sciences, I visited the University of Hawaii because University of Hawaii is quite strong in marine sciences. So this experience of mine in higher education will be very fruitful if I can bring this on to the legal education board. I can bring this on to the legal education system of our country. So more or less similar, I can adapt the same strategy to the legal education board. But it is not the sole work of the legal education board, Your Honor. I think should be a concerted effort together with the law professors together with the deans of law schools, and together with the presidents and chancellors of universities and colleges. In other words, there should be consultation. And I envision this to be the consultation will be done through different strategic planning sessions throughout the country. The strategic planning sessions throughout the country to be participated by law professors and law deans will tackle several strategies on how to improve legal education. Firstly, we will tackle on curriculum uh, making. Another one is the preparation of syllabi. Third, the methods of teaching. Ano ba yung effective, what is the most effective way of teaching law so that we can produce great lawyers? And then another one is, well, the use of facilities. And this should now involve the university presidents and chancellors. Because sila po yung may hawak ng budget, then they should be able to provide beautiful libraries, law libraries for law schools. And then another one is education for our law professors. The legal education board should be able to solicit funds and then award these funds to law professors on endowment on professorial lecturership.
Okay, Attorney Reyes, in terms of reforms, what would be the reforms that you have in mind that you will be introducing should you be appointed as chairman of the Legal Education Board?
Specifically, first po is require all law professors. I know this for a fact that some law professors do not prepare syllabi.
Mm-hmm.
We should require all law professors to submit syllabi to the office of the dean. And then, with the encouragement or with the inspiration from the deans of colleges, I think check on the there are some professors who really do not correct their examination papers. I, I should know because mga kasama ko dati.
You were
hindi sila-
you were one of them, huh?
No, hindi po, hindi po. But they were my classmates. Sabi ko, i-correct niyo naman yung test papers ng mga bata. I think in colleges, not law schools, the dean usually checks on the test papers of students to determine where the teachers are correcting them. Then the most important one is the leadership of the dean.
That's the second reform, huh?
Yes, sir.
That you have in mind.
The first was curriculum and syllabi. Third is, second is, of course, the competence of law professors. I think law deans should hire law professors who are competent enough. For example, in remedial law, sino bang masyadong competent dyan? The judges or justices. And criminal law, then we go to the prosecution section of government, no? Yung mga fiscals. And outstanding law practitioners. In other words, that these professors should really be qualified. And if possible, those who have graduate studies, hindi lang LLB po, hindi lang Doctor of Jurisprudence, if possible, may master's degree po sila from, here in the Philippines, there are only few law schools that offer a graduate program in law. If possible, those master's program from abroad.
How about the continuing legal education? You know, under the Republic Act 7662, one of the powers of the board is to adopt a system of continuing legal education. This conflicts with the mandatory continuing legal education that we are having now. What do you intend to do with this particular provision?
Yes, supposed to be the continuing legal education is the mandate of the Honorable Supreme Court. maybe the lab can sit down. The lab can sit down with the MCLE, Professor Milna Feliciano, who is in charge of this, and fashion a curriculum for law professors.
Is still
Because,
is it still Mirna Feliciano who's running it?
I am not so
MCLE, not anymore.
I'm not so sure, no, sir. But last time I attended my MCLE, that was last year, no, August. She was still
You are
there.
talking of ah, she
She
was
was
still
still
there.
there August last year. Yes, August last year when I took my MCLE at the UP Law
Okay.
Center. I don't know now if she's still there.
Mhm.
But anyway, po,
Ah,
the lab should
okay.
sit down with MCLE to fashion a course for law professors as part of the continuing legal education for law
But what about
professors.
this particular provision? What about this particular provision empowering the LEB, the board, the LEB, no, Legal Education Board, to adopt a system of continuing legal education? This conflicts with the mandatory continuing legal education, is it not?
That's right. That's right, po.
Does it
Uh,
not? So what do you
it
intend to
does
do?
conflict.
Continue with it or propose to revoke it? Uh,
Well, let's revoke it because the Supreme Court has held down a ruling that this conflicts with the power of the Supreme Court. But it will not prevent the LEVPO
okay.
from, with the consent of the CMLE, MCLE of the Supreme Court, to fashion a course exclusively for law
Okay.
professors. Pag pumayag po sila, then we will come out with a
For law
proposal.
professors
For law
exclusively.
professors only po, for
Okay.
law professors long.
Ganun. Sige. Now, aside from the performance of the graduates in the bar examinations, are there other yardsticks that can be used to measure the success of law schools in the Philippines?
Yes po. Aside from performance in the bar examination, that includes statistics po, no? That includes not only the top 10 but also the
Yeah.
percentage of passing.
Mm.
There are other yardstick wherein we can conduct surveys to determine what kind of products did this particular law school produce. Conduct a survey and to determine where are these lawyers now. Continuing survey po, continuing
Mm-hmm.
survey. Where are they now?
Yeah.
What are these lawyers doing now? For example,
Okay.
X school. Saan na ba yung graduates ng X school? Ano na bang ginagawa nila ngayon? In other words, follow them where they are.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll have last two questions for you. The second to the last is this. There were opinions that law schools in the country are constrained to cover the whole gamut of the law included in the bar examination in a short period of only 4 years, giving no room for specialty courses and for its innovation. What can you say about this, and what recommendations can you give?
Yes, Your Honor. I also came out to in my study, in my analysis of the curriculum. That's right, because we are now going towards globalization. And there are courses which are needed by law practitioners to become successful international lawyers. And these courses are not offered in law schools. Maybe we can revise the curriculum, submit a proposal to the Supreme Court, and discuss with and the academy, including the different deans, on how we can introduce reforms, no, additional subjects in the curriculum, so that it will be attuned to the globalization, to the modern practice, especially now that we have technology. Medyo outmoded na po yung subjects na offered since 40s, since the 1930s. It's high time that, just like other law schools in other countries, uh, we have to innovate. We have to introduce new courses. That's why in my proposal po
Okay.
here as LEB chairman, if there is time, the lab should conduct a dialogue with our counterparts in other countries and find out what have they done or what are they doing to make their law schools, their graduates attuned to the modernization.
Sige. Okay, attorney, my last
Yes,
question.
sir.
Sometime in 2019, the lab passed resolution number 2019-406, which states that the basic law degrees, whether Bachelor of Laws or Juris
Doctor.
Doctor,
Yes, sir.
earned from law school recognized or supervised by the lab and its predecessor regulatory agencies shall be considered as equivalent to doctoral degrees in other non-law academic disciplines for purposes of appointment, employment, ranking, and compensation. However, Chairperson Prospero de Vera III does not agree with this because he said that the chair's powers and duties are clear. The grant of authority or equivalency to non-law academic disciplines of degree programs, in this case, basic law degrees, are within the powers and authority of the Commission. Your thoughts on this?
My thought in this is, as a former member of the Academe, I think it is within the power of the lab to change the nomenclature of the degree from Bachelor of Laws to Doctor of Jurisprudence. Nevertheless, if there's really a strong opposition from CHED, especially Chairman De Vera, then I think the solution there is to go to Congress. I will lobby with Congress. I will lobby with Congress, with my classmates there, with my friends, and empower the lab to change the degree from Bachelor of Laws to Doctor of Jurisprudence. Because it is so unfair for law students to be classified as only Bachelor of Laws, Bachelor degree holders. For example, my example is becoming president of state college universities. CHED requires that it should be a PhD degree holder. And yet, how many years do you spend acquiring a PhD degree? More or less 5 years, 3 years in coursework and 2 years in dissertation making. How many years do you spend getting a law degree? 5 to 6 years. When I say six, because the UP College of Law, the evening program is 5 years. So 5 plus 1 year of review, more or less 6 years. So you spend so much same time with those getting their PhD. So it's high time that graduates of law schools be awarded the Doctor of Jurisprudence diploma, just like in other schools overseas. So we'll go to Congress, and I'm sure I'm confident we can get a legislation that will empower LEB to change the nomenclature of Bachelor of Laws to Doctor of Jurisprudence.
Okay, Attorney Reyes, that was my last question.
Thank you,
Judge. Thank you for your time, and good luck.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you very much. God bless po.
Okay, God bless likewise, and stay safe.
Thank you. Maraming salamat po.
Sige.
Thank you, Honorable Judge Franklin J. de Monteverde. The next to interview the applicant is our Honorable Justice Noel Jimenez Tiham, the JBC representative for Academy. Justice Tiham.
Thank you, Attorney. Is that you, Attorney Queenie? You're very
Justice. Yes po.
Good morning, Attorney Reyes.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Justice.
You
Morning
are
po.
68 years old. You are more or less on the
More or
same
less, correct,
age
Justice.
as the members of the JBC. So it is safe to assume that you have a profound understanding of the problems confronting legal education.
Opo.
But my first question is, in your opinion, and based
on your experience and information, do law schools listen to the Legal Education Board?
Uh, Thank you, Your Honor, for that question. It now depends on the leadership of the Legal Education Board. As I said, the legal education system should be conducted not only solely by the LEB, but also involve the deans and law schools. In other words, befriend the deans, talk to the professors, and I'm sure I have friends there who are graduates from my school who are deans, JB Bautista, president of UP, San Beda. I am sure they will understand the work of the lead generation board. Ang lead generation board is parang kwan lang po yan eh. Parang team leader or a coach involving law professors and deans. So that,
So you believe in the importance of dialogue. You mentioned that.
yes sir, very much.
But do you think the Legal Education Board has constitutional authority to dictate on the curriculum of law schools? Considering that law schools, as institution of higher learning, are constitutionally endowed with academic freedom.
Yes, sir. The Legal Education Board cannot dictate upon the law schools on their curriculum. What the lab can do is just uh, maintain dialogue with the deans, and then through dialogue, then maybe we can come out with something that is good for the law schools. But first, we have to come out with statistics. For example, I think the lab should be complete with statistics. And then when we talk to a particular law school that has very low passing average in the bar examination, then, oh, Panyero, bakit kaya? Ano kaya problema natin dyan? So pag-uusapan po, I think that's where the lead will come in. As a friend, not as a dictator. Because very clear po that these law schools have, and other schools have academic freedom. We cannot dictate upon them what curriculum.
Very,
That's why po, opo,
go ahead, Tim.
that's why po, my proposal is we gather all the law professors nationwide and the deans nationwide in a strategic planning sessions. There will be often discussions, suggestions on how to make uh, the law schools effective, on how to make curriculum effective, up to date to the modern times, and how to make teaching effective, curriculum, methods of teaching. Sila na po yung mag-uusap-usap dyan, no? The lab will only come in as a coordinator, as a rapporteur. And then we publish the results of the strategic planning sessions, and then it's up for them to use the results of the strategic planning sessions. The Judicial Academy of the Philippines and the Development Academy of the Philippines will come in to assist us in the conduct of these strategic planning sessions.
There seems to be a lot of confusion as to the identity of the Legal Education Board. There are three branches of government. In your opinion, to what branch of government does the Legal Education Board belong?
Yes.
Because I read your answer to the essay questions, and you wanted that the Legal Education Board be supervised by the Supreme Court. You wrote on that.
Yes, sir.
So going back to my question, to what branch of government, in your opinion, does the Legal Education Board belong?
Theoretically, it belongs to the executive department of our government. But the reality is, the Legal Education Board should be supervised by the Supreme Court because CHED has no time to supervise law schools. They do not have the competence. Wala silang competence with due respect to my friend, Commissioner De Vera. Education lang alam nila po, yung concentration nila dyan. But when it comes to training of future lawyers, wala pong competence ang CHED. In fact, among presidents and colleges, among presidents and chancellors during my time, I was the only lawyer in this sphere of CHED who was there. And in fact, we had discussions on this already. And I said, kung ganon po, since, for example, in the choice of the members of the LEB, it is already done by the Supreme Court through the Judicial Bar Council, we might as well attach it and then give it some sort of autonomy to supervise law schools.
There seems to be an aberration in the law creating the Legal Education Board because admittedly it belongs to the executive department. And yet the law imposes upon the Judicial and Bar Council the selection and the nomination of members of the chairperson and members of the LEB, just like what we are doing right now, when our primordial constitutional mandate is to vet appointments to the judiciary, and the LEB does not belong to the judiciary. Do you not consider that a statutory aberration?
It is, Your Honor. It is, Your Honor. So maybe we can visit our friends in the legislature and present to them this aberration, no? While the law attaches LEB to CHED for supervision and budgetary purposes, but the vetting of the members of the LEB is done by the Judicial and Bar Council. So maybe we have it settled by legislation. And my proposal is we might as well attach it to the Supreme Court and infuse it with, give it ample autonomy. Para
Is
hindi naman.
not constitutionally permissible, considering that the Constitution says that the sole function of the Supreme Court and other courts is judicial function, the exercise of judicial power. There is nothing in the Constitution that bestows upon the Supreme Court participation in legal education. It bestows upon the Supreme Court a rule-making power relating to admission to the bar and the practice as well as procedure. Now, in your biodata, you went to Harvard Kennedy School of Government in Cambridge. Does the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, participate, dictate, or intervene in the curriculum of law schools in the United States?
It does not, Your Honor. It does
So
not.
what would it be constitutional for you to suggest that it should be brought under the supervision of the Supreme Court? Because even if you do it through an act of Congress, that might be struck down as unconstitutional, because even the recent case of Pimentel versus Leb stresses that the principal function of the Supreme Court is judicial function.
Tama po, I agree with you. I agree with you. As I said, theoretically, that is the
So you will
function.
amend the Constitution.
Well, they are now discussing. They're now discussing the Constitution, the amendment with the Constitution. As I said, for practical purposes, we might as well attach this to the Supreme Court. But if it is struck down, then the vetting of the commissioners of LEB will now be taken out from the judiciary. It will now be done by the executive department.
The Supreme Court is burdened with lots of not only administrative but judicial cases. So, and there is a backlog. We came from the Supreme Court, and we are fully aware of the enormous burden imposed upon justices of the Supreme Court. In your opinion, should they actively participate? But I know what you're saying, that the Philippine Judicial Academy, which is a creation of Congress, is under the supervision of the Supreme Court. But it pertains to judicial education, not to legal education. It pertains to judicial education. So do you think it's still your proposal to put it under the Supreme Court is constitutionally possible?
Actually, Your Honor, I have doubts. No, I have serious doubts on that. But as I said, for practical purposes, since the vetting of the commissioners of levy is done by the Supreme Court, we might as well attach it. But if legislation says, no, dito na lang kayo sa executive department, then we will abide by the imprimatur of the legislature. Because as one who taught constitutional law, I strongly feel also that the teaching of law students should be done by the other departments of government, not the judiciary.
I have not heard of any incident in other countries where the Supreme Court, the High Court in other countries, directly participate in the curriculum of legal education, probably in the practice of law with respect to lawyers. All right. Anyway, you took up law, you finished law in the University of the Philippines, correct?
Correct, sir. Correct po.
Were the law students during your time, in your opinion, the same as the law students now in the University of the Philippines?
Well,
There are no right and wrong answers.
baka magagalit yung mga law students ng UP ngayon, but I feel during our time we were quality-wise, medyo magaling kami kaunti kaysa kanila ngayon.
Or probably,
Because
presently, they have a different standard of excellence.
maybe yes, sir. And maybe because during our time, we had outstanding professors who were members of the Supreme Court, members of the Court of Appeals. There were justices who were with us there.
Let me
Fernando.
the next one, because you're a graduate of UP. Okay. Senator Joel Villanueva, who graduated from UP, has filed Senate Bill number 2002 that seeks to institutionalize the University of the Philippines agreement with the Department of National Defense. Ito yung 1981, the Soto Enrile Accord, 1989, the Abueva Ramos Accord, by amending Republic Act 9500 or the UP Charter. So they wanted to institutionalize the accord, which was unilaterally revoked by Secretary Lorenzana a few days ago. You have read this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, Justice.
In the newspapers. Now, essentially, the accord would limit the entry of police and the military in the UP campus nationwide, except in cases of hot pursuit, similar occasions of emergency, or with the express permission from university officials specified under the proposed measures. This proposed Senate bill was filed by Senator Joel Villanueva days after Secretary Lorenzana terminated unilaterally said agreement between the DND and the University of the Philippines, claiming Secretary Lorenzana claimed that the UP has become a safe haven for enemies of the state, quote unquote. That's what Secretary Lorenzana, sir. Now, the palace said that the president was not consulted about this. But under the doctrine of qualified political agency, the president will abide by it. What do you understand by qualified political agency, Attorney
By
Reyes?
qualified political agency, the DND secretary is supposed to be the alter ego of the president. And so his acts is equivalent to the acts of the president himself.
Now, the secretary, of course, came out with a public announcement and through social media that he is not entirely for closing dialogue with the University of the Philippines. Now, my question is, if the proposed bill becomes a law integrating the accord between UP and the DND into the charter of the University of the Philippines, in your opinion, there are no right and wrong answers there. Will it be constitutional?
Your Honor, I think it is not constitutional. UP has academic freedom. It has been there for more than 100 years already, and it has enjoyed academic freedom. It has produced leaders. It does not have to be institutionalized through a law. The DND and the UP Accord should be maintained because the DND does not have a problem.
It was abrogated by the DND. So what Senator Villanueva is planning is put it through an amendment to the UP Charter so it cannot be unilaterally amended. So if it becomes a law, do you think it will be, if it becomes a law, the question is, do you think it is constitutional or unconstitutional? In your opinion?
My opinion is it is unconstitutional. It is unconstitutional. This will now limit the freedom of the University of the Philippines as a university to exercise its freedom, its academic freedom. In other words, whether or not to enter into an accord with DND, with PNP, with other agencies of government is now up to the University of the Philippines. In other words, the purpose of the law is to prevent DND from intruding into the Diliman Republic. Then it can be done through dialogue. Maybe beyond Secretary Ronzana, UP can reach out to the president himself and present the cause of UP.
Now, the process of applying and serving a search warrant is governed by the rules of procedure, correct?
Correct, sir.
Right.
Your Honor.
The process for applying and serving a warrant of arrest is also governed by the rules of procedure issued by the Supreme Court. That is by the Constitution and the Supreme Court. Now, if that accord is institutionalized, that will require prior notification, and express permission from the UP president and other officials before you can serve the search warrant and before you can serve the warrant of arrest. In your opinion, is that not an encroachment on the rule-making power of the Supreme Court?
With all due respect, Your Honor,
it would now be an exception, a safe sanctuary, that before you can execute a search warrant, before you can execute a warrant of arrest, you have to notify in advance and secure the express permission of the officials in the University of the Philippines.
if I may, Your Honor, that law should also be extended not only to UB but also to other universities, to other institutions of higher learning.
So my
The
question is, does it encroach on the rule-making power of the Supreme Court? Because the Supreme Court says these are the rules when you apply and serve a search warrant. These are the rules when you apply and serve a warrant of arrest. And now here comes Congress saying, we will amend those rules. That with respect to state universities and colleges, you have to you have to give prior notification and express permission. Is that not an encroachment on the rule-making power of the president?
Not really, Your Honor, because the rules on the issuance of search warrant will still be observed strictly. Yung pagpasok lang po ng police and the daan po doon sa Office of the President is just a matter of courtesy, an extension of courtesy.
O
But
tatawag muna yung police sa military. Meron po kaming dadalhin dyan na search warrant sa warrant of arrest sa ganito. So before they can, is that normally done with other people, with other companies or entities? Do you call them in advance to notify them that you will serve? And my collateral question is, if you grant that for a good purpose to UP, state universities and colleges, what will prevent schools, other schools, private schools? What will prevent churches? What will prevent mosques? What will prevent hospitals from demanding equal special treatment? So my question is, if you grant that to UP and other state universities and colleges, is that not discriminatory? And it militates against the Equal Protection Clause?
it is discriminatory, Your Honor. It violates the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution. That's why I said the proposed bill of Senator Villanueva should be expanded, not limit it to UP only. It should cover all other state colleges and universities so as to preserve the academic freedom of a university. I'm sure a little courtesy to the president, for example, of UP, will not harm the administration of justice, will not harm the seizure of a suspected communist partisans there. Konting courtesy lang po because, for example, if an army, if a truck of the AAP will come in with soldiers, that will alarm, that will alarm the campus. It will disturb the equanimity that the university enjoys. It will disturb the students, the faculty. But if there is proper coordination, I will call that coordination po, not really permission, just coordination with the administration.
The accord speaks of prior notification and express permission that is in the accord. That is my last question. I just want to say that the accord does not only include UP students, it includes anybody that enters into the UP premises. That is in the accord. Thank you, Attorney Reyes, for your time and good luck.
Thank you, Justice. Thank you po. God bless.
Thank you, Honorable Justice Noel Jimenez Tiham. The next to interview the applicant is Honorable Judge Toribio E. Ilaw, the JBC member for representing the private sector.
Thank you, Attorney Queenie Arroyo. So you're the only Arroyo which is not who is not related to the Arroyos. Yes. Good morning. Good morning, Attorney. How do I address you? Now it's still Attorney Lorenzo Reyes or Dean.
You can call me Lawrence or Lorenzo. The Italians call me Lorenzo. Lawrence is okay. Whatever you wish, your judge. Whatever is comfortable for you, can call me any name.
All right. Could you tell us more about yourself, Attorney Reyes? something which is not found in your application requirements.
Okay, thank you, Judge, for that question. Well, I'm a native son of the southernmost province of Tawi-Tawi. Sabi nga
Okay.
nila, yung mga taga Tawi-Tawi, mga may buntot yan eh. Mga, kanyan, warriors yan, no?
May buntot. Not like hindi pa namalayan na mga mangyan. No?
Hindi naman po. Well, we have minorities there. Then I went to the Mindanao State University for my college in Marawi City, and then to UP Diliman for my law degree and my master's in industrial management, and to Harvard for my management in public policy, Harvard Kennedy School of Government. I spent time in politics because right after the so-called people power, I was appointed by the late Secretary Jaime, former Comelec chairman, to because sabi niya, we need an honest guy there because the province of Tawi-Tawi has been neglected for centuries. We need an honest and young executive, Jaime Ferrer, the late Jaime Ferrer. And then from there, I became assistant secretary in the DAR Adjudication Board, the board that took over the jurisdiction and functions of the Court of Agrarian Relations. So I spent some time there for around 20 years as vice chairman of the DAR Adjudication Board until I was tapped by CHED to manage a branch of the Mindanao State University in Tawi-Tawi, my hometown, because it is a large university that specializes in the marine sciences. Before that, I was also tapped to oversee the power distribution in Mindanao by the former president, President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, because power distribution was very erratic in Mindanao, especially in my region. And then from there, I was again borrowed by the Development Academy of the Philippines to serve as General Counsel of the Philippine Amana Bank to help the Amana Bank collect its collectible from in Mindanao. So from there, I became Chancellor of the Mindanao State University in Tawi-Tawi until I compulsorily retired at the age of 65 in March 2017. After my retirement, here I am here in Zamboanga. I was requested by the Crown Investment to assist them in the power distribution here in Zamboanga City. Uh, Aside from my work as a lawyer, I have been engaged in social activities like being a member of the Rotary Club. I was president of the Rotary Club of Tawi-Tawi and became the assistant governor of District 3850 that covers the provinces of Aklan, Calibu, Iloilo, Negros Occidental, and the entire Zamboanga Peninsula. And on Sundays, you see me in church. I'm a lay minister. I serve mass there, 8 masses on a Sunday, starting at 5:30 in the morning. And well, I have been angry with what I see around, incompetence, corruption, both in the not only in government but also in the private sector. And I am an honest guy. I believe in the Ten Commandments of God, and I believe in the life hereafter. That's why I said I am an honest guy. I would like to believe that my motto is where others fail, I will succeed because I have character, I have passion to accomplish what I want to do with all honesty and integrity and with the blessing of of God.
Arat, you stated that you've been part of the Amana Bank. Were you also a part of the insolvency of that bank? Don Reyes, any role?
I
Common
left.
knowledge.
I left the bank after 1 year because of a lot of resistance. Maraming nang utang sa sa Mana Bank, pero ayaw magbayad ng kanilang utang yung mga kababayan natin. So
Kababayan mo.
it's a
Kababayan mo.
it's a losing proposition. It's a losing proposition. So I said, well, the new president is a friend, Mr. Alex Bangkula. I think he should restructure the bank so that the failures of the bank in the past will not be repeated anymore.
Areta, your wife is Rosalyn I. Reyes. Children, a lawyer, Lorenzo A. Reyes the second.
Opo.
Who's Dency Rose I. Tangkusan. And the last one is another Krisha I. Tangkusan.
Park Krisa po.
Which is Tangkusan.
Yes, those are my stepdaughters.
Stepdaughters.
Rosalind is my second wife. The mother of Lorenzo died of cancer in 1992, and so I remarried.
Ay,
So yung
sorry.
dalawa po, yung Doctoral Densi are my stepdaughters and Parkrisa.
All right. Do you confirm that your net worth in 2012 and 2014 are the same?
More or less, yes, sir.
There was no such movement in 2012 and 2014 SAL-ends. Same
Opo.
assets, same liabilities.
Yes po, yes po. Kasi sweldo lang naman ang aking natatanggap
lang
eh.
naman.
Yun lang, sweldo lang, no business.
Did you file your 2019 SAL-end? We didn't file your 2019 SAL-end. And any explanation on this?
There's a little bit misunderstanding because I am not required to submit my 2019 since I retired from government service in March 2017. So I told myself, SAR-N is normally required of those in government. So after March 2017, wala na pa ko. I was not even working. I was just in the house watching television. 2018, hindi rin po ako nagtrabaho. I only worked starting with Crown on April 10, no? Up to now. In fact, I'm on leave because of this interview. But should I be required, I can submit my 2019 SAL-N relatedly this afternoon or tomorrow.
Aren't you looking forward to such compliance?
I will do that. I will submit that po. I will submit
and also your written explanation on this matter, please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I will do that.
Okay. Alright, could you tell us briefly about this administrative case for alleged violation of Republic Act 3019 filed against you? It's yes, an anti-graft and corrupt practices by a certain landowner who filed a complaint against you for allegedly issuing temporary restraining order in favor of a fish pond worker.
Yes, yes. I now remember. I was a member of the DAR Adjudication Board, and then we issued a TRO, an injunction against a landowner because the alleged farmer, the fish pond caretaker came to us and cried, and then he said he was being harassed by the fish pond by the landowner. So we issued a TRO or an injunction. But when we discussed and decided the case on the merits, we found out that he was not really a caretaker. So the TRO was just to preserve the status quo to prevent bloodshed from happening. That was our intention. So when we decided the case on the merits, we resolved the case in favor of the participant owner. So in spite of that fact that the case was won by the participant owner, he sued us before the ombudsman. And the ombudsman believed in him. And then we went on trial with the Sandigang Bayan, and the Sandigang Bayan dismissed the case. Yun pa yung kaso na yan.
Where's the location of the land holding? In what place? If you remember.
I think Nueva Ecija.
Nueva Ecija.
Nueva Ecija. Nueva Ecija. The landowner eventually won the case. In fact, I was the one who penned the decision in his favor.
All right, Attorney Lawrence. In a report by the American Bar Association Task Force, it observed that law schools have become too focused on academic work rather than the actual law practice. Do you consider this a problem in the Philippine setting?
Partly, Your Honor, Judge. So that's why the curriculum should be together with the law professors and the law school deans should be revised so that we not only produce lawyers who are good in practice, but we also produce lawyers who are advocates for reform in government, in the private sector. We produce lawyers who are God-fearing, straightforward, honest, and we produce lawyers who are also engaged in research. In other words, both practice and research should be tackled by the different law schools.
Is the right to education absolute?
Your Honor, I think the right to education is not absolute because the state is only obligated to provide quality education. When we say quality education, it presupposes that there are standards to be followed. And so not everybody, for example, can go to law school even if he's not qualified. In other words, only those qualified should be able to go to the medical school, the school of dentistry, engineering, to law school. And so the state can provide minimum standards without, of course, violating the academic freedom of higher learning. They enjoy academic freedom, but, for example, LEV can set minimum requirements because the state is mandated to provide quality education.
And what is your basis in saying this, that the right to education is not absolute?
There is a provision in the Constitution, Article 14, Section 1, which states that the state shall protect and promote the right of all citizens to quality education at all levels and shall take appropriate steps to make such education accessible to all. So when we say quality education, that presupposes certain admission requirements, which I said should be complied by candidates pursuing a particular field. For example, one who is good in mathematics should be able to go to fields like engineering, computer science. Those good in social science, they should be able to go to law. And those good in science, maybe medicine, nursing, and dentistry. That is, the state can provide minimum requirements so that it will be equitable, reasonable, and accessible to all who would like to pursue education. So the right is not absolute.
Thank you. This is so provided in Section 5 in Article 14 of the Constitution. You're true, which states that every citizen has the right to select a profession or course of study. and it was also cited in Calawag versus UP Visayas. My next question, Attorney Lawrence, is, what do you think of law schools with consistent low bar exam passing rate?
Uh, that's why I said my proposal is for LEB to adopt a system of accreditation. In other words, we set standards, and these standards is set not by LEB alone, but by the deans of all law schools in the country. So that if certain law schools cannot meet the standards, then they should not be allowed to operate anymore. In other words, they should be disaccredited. In other words, there should be accreditation because it's a waste of time for parents to be sending their children to law schools and then hindi naman pumapasa po sa bar examination. So we set standards, we set criteria for accreditation in tandem with the deans of law schools.
And what do you think is the value of the Legal Education Board to the legal education?
Yes, the Legal Education Board should provide leadership in the administration of the legal education system. When I say leadership, it should coordinate with the different deans of law schools, with the professors, and then provide a mechanism where law professors and law deans can submit proposals on how to improve legal education in the Philippines. So LEV is there to provide the leadership.
Alright, do you think the Legal Education Board is necessary?
Yes, sir. Yes, Judge. I think the Legal Education Board is necessary. Otherwise, there'll be chaos. There'll be chaos in the implementation of the legal education system in the Philippines. Otherwise, there will be law schools in Tawi-Tawi, in Cotabato, in the islands of Batanes. You know, there'll be proliferation of law schools which are designed only for money making business. In fact, historically, that's why the Department of Education came in to regulate the establishment of schools in the country, even during the American period, because these schools were used as business, as money-making schemes. And so kailangan po yung Legal Education Board to oversee with minimum
Alright, I heard that you can go through your friends in the legislative branch of solving the problems here, starting from the Legal Education Board. And likewise, taking into consideration the landmark decision of the Honorable Supreme Court in Oscar v. Pimentel et al. Versus Legal Education Board, Republic Act number 7662 and the findings of the Legal Education Summit's National Consultative Workshops. By the way, were you part of these consultative workshops?
unfortunately, sir, I was not part of that workshop.
And do you agree that there's been imperative to consolidate and harmonize all this to the extent possible in the light of developments in the education sector and the legal profession to fully develop legal education in the country?
I fully agree with that. I fully agree with that. In other words, take a second look, review this together with the professors, all the stakeholders, Congress, and the judiciary about the state of legal education in the Philippines today. There's a lot of work to do, but it can be done.
And more practically, having identified the perennial problem of law schools in suitably preparing their students hurdle the bar examinations and the practice of law, to be more aligned approach could be implemented beginning in law school until the bar examination. Don't you think that this and even the practice of law be under the Honorable Supreme Court at the helm of the legal education?
Uh, admittedly, the teaching of law or the administration of legal education is a function of the executive branch of government. But the reality is, for example, Leb, the vetting of officers for the LEB, the chairman and the commissioners, is done by the judiciary. So, whereas it is attached to the CHED, no, for budgetary purposes. In other words, if that is the case, we might as well attach the LEB to the Supreme Court, just like the Judicial Academy of the Philippines in Tagaytay, and attach it to the Supreme Court, but give it ample opportunity without interference, so it can perform its task of overseeing the reformation of legal education in the Philippines. But if there is resistance because of constitutional questions that it should be with the executive department, then the Legal Education Board, through the wisdom of Congress, should be equipped with such powers so that legal education system in the Philippines will be addressed fully.
Do you subscribe to the view of abolishing the Legal Education Board and creating the Legal Education Office, which shall be under the control and supervision of the Supreme Court? Considering the inevitable relationship of legal education, admission to the bar, and the practice of law, it's rather to be termed not as a legal education board, but rather a legal education office.
I am willing to subscribe to that idea that will be transformed into a legal education office in the Supreme Court, but give it ample autonomy so that it will, it will not be construed as a function of the Supreme Court, because admittedly, the determination of who should go to law schools, who should study, is an executive function. But the training of lawyers, the determination who should be admitted to the bar, is a function of the judiciary to the Supreme Court.
But this office shall be under the Supreme Court with similar functions. Taking into considerations the functions which were declared unconstitutional by the court pursuant to Section 5, subsection 5, Article 8 of the Constitution.
Yeah, provided the legal education office will not interfere in the determination on who should be admitted into the practice of law, no? Bar examination matters. Dapat wala na yan sa function ng legal education office. The legal education office will only concentrate on legal study, on the production of law graduates, no longer into the those admitted into the bar, no longer into the continuing legal education. That is the function of that is a judiciary function of the Supreme Court. For purposes of overseeing it, I think there should be no constitutional harm to attach it to the Supreme Court.
About the proposal to reduce the number of the legal education board members and taking other measures such as having the representatives of the IBP and the Philippine Association of Law Schools to serve in an ex officio capacity who could therefore automatically serve without undergoing the selection process of the Judicial and Bar Council.
I think this should still go to the vetting process. I think members, lawyers who will serve in the lab should still undergo the vetting process. In fairness to the chair and the full-time member, not necessarily automatic membership of the IBP president or the president of the Philippine law associations. They can nominate. They can nominate. The IBP and the law association can nominate, but these nominees should still undergo a vetting process.
About this removing the preference of the Supreme Court and Court of Appeals justices to chair the Legal Education Board to encourage more applicants. Because the JBC has experience of or a problem of filling vacancies. For so many years, they've been reopening the chairpersons and members of the Legal Education Board.
Yes, sir. I remember that the position I'm applying for now has been vacant since 2019. So 2 years now, more than 2 years now, because members of the judiciary, retired justices of the Supreme Court, retired justices of the Court of Appeals, are already beyond 70 years old, and I think they now would like to enjoy life in the twilight years. Then they now have, with the exception of you, with the exception of Justice Ilaw, Justice Mendoza, medyo pagod na rin po sila. Gusto nila na po nagpapahinga yan. And they have enough retirement, retirement uh, pension. So they don't need to work anymore. That's why it took the Supreme Court to open again more than 2 years, 3 years. Because hindi na po, ayaw nila po magtrabaho. Pagod na po sila. Well, they can teach one subject to two subjects because they have spent their time drafting, researching, and teaching. And it's high time for them to enjoy their life in the twilight years.
All right, my last question. Thank you very much. The such problem has been the Pandora's box of problems have been pried open. At any rate, my last question, Attorney Reyes. A clerk in a butcher shop is 5 feet tall. What does he weigh?
A clerk in the butcher shop, that's in the market.
Yes, it's
5 feet tall.
feet tall. What does he weigh?
It's difficult. It's difficult to determine the weight of that butcher. Because that butcher may be either thin, he may be stout, he may be fat, no, he may be overweight. But it's difficult. The facts are not complete to determine his weight.
Rather, he does weigh a meat.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Attorney Lawrence.
Thank
That
you,
was my
Judge.
last and final question.
Thank you,
And
Judge.
good
Thank
luck.
you, Judge.
Good luck.
God bless. Keep safe from
Yeah, thank you.
COVID-19.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Judge Trivio E. Ilaw Jr. The next
Wait, saka wait.
The next to interview our applicant is the JBC regular member for representing the retired justices of the Supreme Court, Honorable Jose Catral Mendoza. Justice Mendoza.
Thank you very much, Attorney Queenie. Good morning pa naman. Good morning. How do I address you? Yusek, President.
Lawrence po, just Lawrence. Lawrence is
Attorney
okay.
Lawrence.
I feel comfortable. Just Lawrence here. Justice.
Attorney Lawrence, I have read your records and they are impressive, and I also read your answers to the questions administered on the applicants. And I also heard the questions and your answers
answers of questions of my colleagues and your answers. So I'm going to adapt those questions, and I will just ask some very few questions only, because you have covered a lot of areas. Uh, this one is something personal. uh, both of your parents were born in Tawi-Tawi, right?
My father was born in Tawi-Tawi, but my
Yes.
mother was born in Sulu, province
Sulu.
of Sulu. Sulu po.
Oh. Your mother is a Tausug? No.
No, my father is an Ilocano Sama Mestizo,
I
but
see.
he is a Catholic because he was a Grand Knight of the Knights of Columbus. My
Yes.
mother is an Ilocano Tausug Mestiza. Her father was an Ilocano from La Union, a member of the Philippine Constabulary, and he married the son of a chieftain in Sulu.
I
So
see.
mestiza po siya, but she adopted the Catholic religion.
Yeah. And then, who was the Thomasite you mentioned?
He was my late grandfather, Bartolome Reyes po.
Oh,
He is
Bartolome
from
Reyes.
Bartolome, he is from
He's
Santa
not.
Maria.
He's not an American,
He's not an American, but a
but
Spanish
because the Spanish.
Spanish mestizo. Spanish
Oh,
mestizo. I said Thomasite because he was hired by the American regime in
he was
19
hired. I
yeah
thought
1905.
he was a passenger in the USS Thomasite.
Was was hired by the
Okay.
American regime because there were no
Okay.
teachers, Christian teachers in the South at the time.
Yes, because I have a lot of friends whose grandfathers, grandmothers were Thomasites. They came here to the Philippines, and they thought all over the country. I met a lot of them. In fact, some of them were classmates. Talagang mga Caucasians.
Opo.
Oh, now another thing is that I will not ask you about it anymore. You have undertook earlier that you will submit your SALN, updated SALN.
Opo, opo.
If you can make it 2020, the better.
I will do that, sir.
And
2019,
and
2020.
with as suggested by Judge Ilaw, with explanation.
Opo, opo. I'll do
Okay.
that, sir.
Oh. Uh, from your answers, I presume you have extensively read the case of Pimentel versus Leb, right?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, po. Yes, Justice.
Yes. Uh, in the case, there were provisions declared as constitutional. There were some provisions declared as unconstitutional, and the others are unconstitutional for being ultra vires. Okay. Do you
Yes.
remember those which were declared unconstitutional?
Some of them are justice, like the requirement of an LSAT as an exclusive requirement for entrance into the law school. The court said that LSAT, the legal admission examination, should only be part of the requirements, but not exclusive. Another one is the conduct of continuing legal education, which is not the function of the lab, but the function of the judiciary to the Supreme Court. In this case, the MCLE. It's the MCLE that is conducting the continuing legal education. And then there were other, in fact, in front of me is those are the most important ones that I remember. It struck down the LSAT as an exclusive requirement for admission into the law school. It should only be part. That's why I said that the Legal Education Board, together with the law professors and the law deans, should sit down and determine what are the things, what are the requirements uh, that should be required of prospective law students, so that we can only get the good ones aside from his score in the LSAT. In other words, the only LSAT is only part of the requirements. And the conduct of continuing education, well, basically that's the Supreme Court's function. Because the Supreme Court was very careful in because the institutions of higher learning enjoy academic freedom.
Have you read the case of Tablarin versus Gutierrez?
Uh, Recently not, but I have a faint memory of that when I was in law school, and that was about the academic freedom of institutions.
Yes, yes.
The Supreme Court reiterated the four freedoms of institutions of higher learning: what to teach, how to teach, who to teach, and who to admit to the university. That's why I remember of the Tablarin case.
Yes, the Tablarin case also declared constitutional the NMAT. Do you know the NMAT?
Yes, sir. Because I have two daughters who are doctors of medicine,
I see.
and they took the NMAT, and
Yeah.
without the NMAT, they could not enter the College of Medicine.
Yeah. But it was declared constitutional. What is the difference between the PhilSat and the NMAT?
There is a difference between the NMAT and the LSAT.
The other one was declared constitutional.
That's right.
PhilSat has been declared as unconstitutional in some of its aspects.
Because the fields of medicine is quite different from the fields of law, because the fields of medicine deals with the lives of individuals. And so only qualified candidates should be allowed to go to medical schools, because they'll be treating patients, they'll be dealing with lives. So
Was that the difference uh, between the two? Because we know NMAT refers to the test for admission in medical schools. It was also declared constitutional, and it was implemented, it was compared to the PhilSat on three grounds. Do you remember the three grounds?
I really
Which
don't
was the
remember.
basis of the comparison by the Supreme Court of why NMAT was declared constitutional and why PhilSat is different.
Yeah, I now remember, Justice.
Yes.
I now remember, Justice. In NMAT, medical schools are have the discretion to determine what score the students should have. For example, University of the Philippines, PGH, they require a very high score of 98. Now, all of them should be 98, 99. I know because my stepdaughter, Densi, graduated from UP, and she was required to have 98 or 99 NMAT score. Now, in other words, discretion is left. The discretion is left to medical schools to determine what score to adopt. Whereas here in
PhilSat.
PhilSat, in PERSAT, it is made a prerequisite, completely prerequisite, that without passing the score of 55%, I think it's stated there, you cannot enter the law school. Whereas in NMAT, it did not state the score. It may be 45, 55. I know some medical schools here in Mindanao, in Zamboanga here. We have two medical schools. 45 is allowed, 50 is allowed, no?
Yes. Okay. In Pimentel versus Leb, reiterated what you mentioned earlier, which is the matters covered by academic freedom. That was also in Tablarin. In other cases, quoting Justice Frankfurter, know what to teach, how to teach, like that. You were asked earlier about the UP-DND agreement. Is that covered by academic freedom? Can that be legislated?
My opinion on that, Justice.
I heard you earlier. I just want to.
Yeah, it intrudes, no? It intrudes into the academic freedom of the university. Uh, Hindi na kailangan po may institutionalize, but the UP should be given the freedom to talk with DND on how DND can come in and address its concerns. It should not be institutionalized anymore because that will violently violate the academic freedom of institutions of higher learning.
There is such an agreement. It will be violated. It's better that there will be no agreement, because anyway, there are other laws which can be, which the military or the police can enforce without such agreement.
Yes, Your Honor, but it is an elementary rule in courtesy that before agencies like DND, PNP, NBI can come in into the campus of a university like UP or Ateneo, they should observe the utmost courtesy of passing through the office of the president and inform the president, sir, we have here a warrant of arrest for this faculty, for the students. Please allow us to fulfill our obligation, our duty. I am sure the leadership of the university will always allow that because these
But
are.
should it be legislated?
It should not be it should not be legislated anymore, Justice. Hindi na kailangan po yun. Traditions and practices of civilized nations, of civilized universities can come into bear upon this matter.
Okay. The case of Pimentel versus the LEP was promulgated September 19, somewhere September 2019. And there were several motions for reconsideration filed. Up to now, they have not yet been resolved. I'm just asking your opinion. Anyway, the decision is not yet final. Do you fully agree with the decision in Pimentel?
Yes, I fully agree, Your Honor.
Personal opinion only. It will not be taken against you.
Yes, it's my
It's
personal opinion. I fully agree. I fully agree with the decision of the
in all
majority.
aspects.
In all aspects, yes, in all aspects.
Okay. Uh, I have one more question. Anyway, they were already covered by my colleagues. I think, Tony Lawrence, that will be all for today. You are excused, and the best of luck.
Thank you, thank you. Maraming salamat po, Justice. Maraming salamat po.
Okay.
Keep
Thank
safe.
Buti your internet is working well. Oh, you are in way far Sambuanga.
I had to look for a place where the internet is strong. Hindi ho, entire Zamboanga City maganda yung
I see.
coverage. Dito ho, sa bahay ng aking pamangkin.
You're not in your own house.
Oh, yung own house, wala pong internet connection doon.
I
It's a
see.
problem. So we're happy
You
that
go to
the third...
the gasoline station.
Yes, yesterday po, nagka-brown out
Oh,
pa kami whole
oh,
day.
oh. I see.
Okay.
Anyway, yun lang ang tanong ko. You were extensively asked by my colleagues already. So many aspects. Thank you very much. You
Thank
are
you,
Maraming
Attorney.
salamat po, Justice. God
eh,
bless and keep safe from COVID and the new strain.
okay.
Thank you, Attorney Lorenzo Reyes. And thank you, Honorable Justice Jose Catral Mendoza. The
Yes.
next applicant to be interviewed for today is Mr. Earl Anthony Bautista, an applicant for the LEB Law Student Representative. Mr. Bautista is a fourth-year law student at the UP College of Law. To introduce the first to interview you, Mr. Bautista, we have the Honorable Judge Franklin J. De Monteverde, the JBC regular member representing the Integrated Bar of the Philippines. Judge De Monteverde.
Yeah, thank you.
Good morning po.
Thank you, Queenie or Michelle?
Queenie po, Judge.
Queenie. Okay.
Welcome po.
Okay. Good morning, Attorney Earl Anthony Bautista.
Good morning po. Student pa po, sir.
Yeah, student pa. Because you're applying for the post of a regular member representing the law student sector.
That is correct
And
po,
you're
Your Honor.
only 27.
Yes
So
po.
you were described as a fourth-year law student.
That's correct, no, sir. I'm already a fifth year law student.
Fifth year. And when will you graduate?
I am expected to graduate on time po this
And what is
July.
that on time?
Sir?
July this year?
Yes,
July
sir.
this year?
July this year.
We're now in January, and you only have 6 months to go. And with the vetting, with the recommendation that we will be sending to Malacanang, as well as on the appointment, it may take some time after 6 months, and you will no longer qualify.
I see, Your Honor.
Are you aware of that?
Not really, Your Honor.
Okay. Because the period should be counted from the time a student is appointed. But if it's no longer but if the appointment is issued after he graduates, then that particular applicant is no longer qualified to be appointed. Okay. You're only 27, Attorney. How should I call you? Attorney Bautista or Attorney Earl? Earl is shorter.
Earl na lang po, sir.
Earl na lang. Okay. You're 27 years old.
That is correct po.
Quite very, very young because you're still a student. But you are already working. No?
Yes.
What is your work now?
Your Honor, currently I am not employed, but before this, um, I was engaged as a junior legal assistant at the Institute of Government and Law Reform at the UP
Mhm.
Law Complex.
Okay.
Mhm.
But
So
prior
my
to that, you were also connected with Sisip Gores and Velayo
yes, that is
as
correct.
an associate transaction advisory.
That is correct.
Was your work there temporary or consultant or as
Uh,
consultant or permanent?
Your Honor, that is a full-time job.
Full-time
That
job. And
yes,
you
sir.
were only
Your Honor,
20
that was around 2015, so I was 22, 22 years old.
22, and you
Your
were
Honor.
also already working in an advisory work team.
Your Honor, actually, the nature of my work there is because I graduated with an accountancy degree, so I'm also a
Mhm.
certified public accountant, and my work there is related to my license as a CPA, and it's an entry level position, Your Honor.
Okay. I also note that you were a lecturer at the age of 23.
That is correct, Your Honor.
What did you teach?
Your Honor, I taught at my alma mater, which is the Virata School of Business at
Yes.
the UP Diliman. I taught the subjects of financial accounting, managerial accounting, operations research, management finance, and corporate finance. So it's all related to my undergraduate degree.
At a very young age. What age were you when you entered college?
I was 16 years old, Your Honor.
16. Okay. So you were not under probation sa UP noon?
No, 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 Your Honor.
Kaya tuloy-tuloy Okay. Medically, you're still young, but your uric acid and cholesterol is quite high.
I recognize that, Your Honor. Actually, I have remedied that already.
You were the one who remedied that personally, or
Um,
with the advice of a doctor, or
with the advice of a physician, Your Honor.
and what did he tell you?
Uh, well, the usual advice for a high uric acid patient is to refrain from eating a high protein diet and to drink lots of water.
Okay, lots of water, and you do
Yes,
drink
Your
lots
Honor.
of water.
Yes, Your Honor.
Only water or liquid?
Um, it's better to drink plain water, Your Honor.
Okay, not beer.
No, 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 Your Honor.
Now, sa electrocardiogram mo, there's a finding here that you have a normal sinus rhythm with sinus arrhythmia,
Yes, Your
early
Honor.
repolarization pattern. Ano ito?
Uh, well, based on the limited explanation that I got, Your Honor, from the physician, it's not really a very huge finding, Your Honor. It's the
Mhm,
heartbeat is really normal, but
mhm.
there but parang sir, parang Your Honor, there's just a small arrhythmia, like a certain um, irregularity, but it's not of medical concern now, Your Honor.
Sige. Attorney Earl, are you aware that an opposition dated November 23, 2020 was filed against your application?
Yes, Your Honor.
Uh, can you tell us what this is all about?
Yes, Your Honor. I received a copy of the opposition, Your Honor, and it contained some allegations that the oppositor is claiming that I have committed fraud
Mhm.
because I am not at present employed full time, and yet I am in the evening program of the UP College of Law. However, Your Honor, I also submitted my comment to that dated November 29, explaining in detail why his allegations are completely false and wrong. Um, one reason is because he characterized my work in the Institute of Government and Law Reform. He characterized it as a research assistant position, and he said that that is not a full-time position, which is required of evening students in the UP College of Law. And he is
And was
saying,
it? Was he correct?
no, Your Honor. Actually, that was my one of my main contentions, Your Honor. He is completely ignorant of the nature of my work. I am not a research assistant, Your Honor. In my work there, it was a junior legal assistant position. It was a full-time engagement. I was required to work 8 hours a day. I was required to do the biometrics in the morning and in the evening. And in fact, my functions as a junior legal assistant were practically the same as that of the plantilla position of law reform associate, my colleague at that time. So he is actually, it is a very unfortunate, Your Honor, that the impostor is very misinformed. He did not even verify his facts. That is a very, it's very interesting, Your Honor, because it is very easy to verify. He could have easily asked some persons that he knew in the UP law complex what's the nature of my work, but he did not do so. He just completely
Okay.
and altogether ascribed fraud to me.
Did you submit your explanation to the JBC,
Yes, Your Honor.
to us?
Yes, Your Honor. November.
Okay.
It's a
It's
comment
not.
dated November 29.
Okay. Now, there was also a survey feedback against you dated also 23 of November 2020. Although it was noted that you had already been furnished with comments, is this the same? Is this the same as the allegations of made by the oppositor, or different? Survey ito eh.
Your Honor, I am not aware of that, Your Honor. But I probably that is the same because it was of the same date, November 23. I'm not. I wasn't probably given a copy, Your Honor.
November 23. The opposition was dated November 23, and the survey feedback was also dated 23 of November 2020. So
Mm,
you do not know anything about this, but you
I did.
surmise that this might be the same
Yes,
as that of the opposition.
yes, Your Honor.
Now, you were recommended by a certain attorney Maria Golda Gigi Minosa of the UP Law Center. What made you decide to give your conformity to this recommendation, considering that you are still studying law?
Your Honor, attorney, actually Professor Minosa, she is actually my former professor at the UP College of Law and also my colleague at the Institute of Government and Law Reform. So she is, in my opinion, she is one of the persons who is in the best position to give a recommendation as to my fitness and my work ethic, my quality of outputs that I give. So I gave my conformity because even though I am just a law student, I believe that I have the capacity to discharge the functions of the Office of Law Student Representative as shown by my credentials and my previous work experience. First, I am a certified public accountant, so I already have a professional license. And beyond that, I already have work experience as a professional accountant and as a law student. So it is, I did not think twice about um, applying for this position because I am used to the challenge. I am used to challenging myself academically and professionally, Your Honor.
And how did you apply? How did you prepare for this application of yours?
Uh, so, Your Honor, last year in the I was looking out for the announcement from the Judicial and Bar Council, and promptly after seeing the announcement of the council, I promptly applied for the position. I gathered all the documentary requirements and submitted them on time, and I uh, I also submitted my application letter along with the documentary requirements. And for this interview, I prepared by just uh, being myself, Your Honor.
Now, should you ever be appointed to the Legal Education Board representing the students, what reforms do you have in mind which are beneficial to law students like you that you want to introduce?
Your Honor, as a law student, I noticed that the legal education is the focus on legal education is more on learning about the concepts, learning about the statutes, the rules, the jurisprudence. But I believe if ever I will be appointed, I believe that law students will benefit from having from a shifting the focus from very large focus on just learning the concepts to applying them. So what I propose, if ever I will be appointed, I propose that uh, to encourage law schools to adopt more kinds of clinical legal education. For example, currently in the UP College of Law, there are several types of clinical legal education. For example, there is the Office of the Legal Aid, which focuses on indigent clients. There is the environmental clinical legal education. There's the human rights focused clinical legal education. And I believe what this will do, what this will benefit law students, is for them to be exposed as early as law school, how they will be able to apply, how they will be able to um, realize what they have learned in law school. Because also, Your Honor, as an educator, as a lecturer, I noticed that students learn better when they are exposed to real situations, to concrete situations, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, is the Socratic method of teaching in law school still practical today? Why or why not?
Your Honor, for me, it is. It is.
In what way?
Because uh, at its core, Your Honor, the Socratic method is actually a method of teaching in which the person reciting, for example, in law school, is being is being shown how the proper thought process should work in answering a legal question. So, for example, the professor will ask, for example, in a class of persons and family relations, is the marriage valid? So, if the student just says yes or no, then the professor should ask why. And then if the student answers gives an answer as to why or why not, the Socratic method would tell you that the professor should keep asking why, because on that note, on that aspect, on that procedure, the student will be minded, will be aware of his own thought process, and will know, oh, these are my flaws, these are the flaws in my logic, because the professor keeps on asking on this point. of the question. So in my opinion, Your Honor, the Socratic method is still relevant today because the competencies that a lawyer should have is a certain is a logic in the way of thinking. It is not just about knowing the legal provisions. It's not just about knowing jurisprudence, but also about knowing how to organize one's thoughts. And I believe that is what the Socratic method does, Your Honor. It teaches students to organize their thoughts.
Okay. Other than this method, what other methods of teaching can you suggest that is applicable in lawsuits, that could be applicable or that you could apply to law schools?
Your Honor, for me, uh, just for context, Your Honor, in my undergraduate degree, which is accountancy, um, the reason I believe that we are able to learn the topics is because we are able to have several types of exercises, uh, several exams, and several quizzes to enable us to uh, apply and see how the concepts work in real life. So what for me in law school, I could also apply that, Your Honor. I think it's better for law schools to have a regular for law professors to institute regular periodic quizzes or exams, Your Honor, because
Hmm?
in that way the whole semester is going to be divided into smaller chunks in order to facilitate learning for the student. Whereas currently, for example, in the UP College of Law, it is just one whole semester and one big exam at the end. So I believe that law students would benefit from having a certain regular, smaller chunks of information to digest and will culminate in the future in the final exam, Your Honor.
Okay. Does adherence to the bar oriented teaching and learning approaches in law school promote status quo and hinder growth and the development of the Philippine legal education? Does it?
Your Honor, in my opinion, it does. Um,
Expound on it, please.
yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor. Um, at present, Your Honor, law schools do have a tendency to focus on the bar exams and to gauge their performance merely on who has the largest number of top notchers or who has the highest percentage, a passing percentage. And I believe, Your Honor, what happens or what this does, this inordinate focus on the bar exam, is it makes students view the bar exam as an end in itself and not as a means for the practice of law. Um, Also, what's happening by law schools focusing too much on the bar, having a bar-centered um, legal education, students will merely be minded to just memorize and would not really be concerned about how this will work in the real world, how they will apply such topics, how they will be able to use these concepts when they actually practice law. So I believe that it is time to move away from such a very bar-centric legal education, which I believe, from my knowledge, the Supreme Court is actually doing now. So what they're doing is one of the things that I believe that the Supreme Court is correct in doing is in removing the top 10, the top notchers list, because and just replacing it with a pass or a high pass or a fail remark, because it would make law schools focus not just on certain individuals they believe will top the bar exam, but law schools will be able to focus on each and every individual law student and ensure that all of them pass the bar exam and not just focus on some individuals they will believe who will top the bar. So that's it, Your Honor.
So, apart from subscribing to the plan of the Supreme Court, what do you personally intend to do about, you said, veering away from the bar-oriented teaching?
Your Honor, in my opinion, if I will ever be appointed to the position, my suggestion would be to um, institute or create more opportunities for law students to apply their knowledge, which again is in the creation of more clinical legal education classes. And
Such as
also,
what?
also
Such as what?
for example, Your Honor, I believe it is a very opportune time for law students to learn about emerging fields in law, such as environmental law, competition law, and data privacy law. Uh, why not make law students take their internship at the National Privacy Commission, the NPC, or at the PCC, the Philippine Competition Commission? So I believe it would also modernize legal education in that
But that
sense.
would be easy for those students who are in Metro Manila. What about those in the provinces when you do not have this kind of clinics?
Um, Probably, Your Honor, what students from provinces may have is other kinds of legal education, which are within their vicinity. So so my proposition, Your Honor, is to make uh, to encourage law schools to institute to create their own legal education, clinical legal education programs, which are within the reach, which are within the reach of their law students.
Okay. Now, do you think the present legal education system has properly inculcated the fundamental lawyering skills needed by the students for the practice of law?
Uh, for me, Your Honor, yes.
Hmm?
However, I believe that there is still room for improvement, Your Honor. For example, in the UP College of Law, the only opportunities that law students would have in order to hone their lawyering skills would be in the law internship. And I believe, as I mentioned, law students would be benefited by having more of these opportunities for them to be able to practice at as early as in law school, to have uh, a certain experience already on how it is to practice law. And if I may add, Your Honor, I believe that as my personal experience as an intern at the UP College of Law, it has been a very huge help, very effective, the clinical legal education in inculcating in law students how it is in actual practice, such as drafting pleadings, filing in court, those kinds of things, Your Honor.
What is your philosophy of legal education, Attorney Earl?
Well, Your Honor, I believe that, as I mentioned, legal education should be geared towards practice, but also not. I'm not saying that we should move away completely from theory, legal theory. What I'm saying is there should be what I believe my philosophy is there should be a healthy balance between theory and theory and practice. So that's my philosophy, Your Honor. There should be a healthy balance between the two.
A balance between the two,
Yes, Your Honor.
not merely on theories or practice, but
No,
a
Your Honor.
combination of the two.
Yes, Your Honor, because how can one practice the law if he does not or she does not even know what the law says?
Or vice versa.
Yes, exactly, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, as a policy for legal education, would you encourage the outcome-based education? Or what is your concept first about the outcome-based education? What do you understand by it?
Outcome-based, Your Honor. I believe that speaks about how how students are to be evaluated, Your Honor. That students should be evaluated based on the outcome of their of the tasks that they do. For example, in in law internship, um, students are evaluated based on the quality and the rigorous application by the student of the law towards a particular real life case. So I believe that's the outcome based education, Your Honor. And I believe that uh, that is that is a positive step, Your Honor, if education would be outcome based.
Okay, Attorney Earl, my last question. In your two-page intent letter, you mentioned all your achievements at an early age, very young age. Now, in three sentences, three lang, tell us more about yourself, which you did not include in your letter.
Mm, three sentences, Your Honor. Your Honor, aside from all of the things that I have mentioned in my intent letter, Your Honor, about
Yung hindi
my,
nasama, yung hindi mo naisama doon.
is it related to my qualifications, Your Honor? Or
Kahit na ano, personality-wise or whatever.
Your Honor, I did not mention in my intent letter that aside from being a law student and
Three sentences lang,
yes, Your Honor. Aside from the things that I've mentioned, Your Honor, I am also a member, Your Honor, of the UP Law Charivari, which is an organization focused on music, Your Honor. So
Okay.
that is also one of my that is a major part of my identity, Your Honor. To be part of that organization.
Okay. Okay, Attorney Earl, that was my last question.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you for your time and good luck. Hope by the time the appointment comes out, should you ever be appointed, you're no longer, you're still a student.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Honorable Judge Franklin de Monteverde. The next to
Thank you.
interview, thank you po, welcome po. The next to interview the applicant is Honorable Justice Noel Jimenez
Thank
Tina.
you.
Thank you, Attorney Queenie.
Welcome po.
Good morning, Mr. Bautista.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Judge de Monteverde already predicted that you will become a lawyer. That's why I address you as Attorney Bautista.
Very humbling, Your Honor.
What is your favorite subject in law school, Earl?
Your Honor, my heart is really in labor law, Your Honor.
Why do you find it fascinating?
Because, Your Honor, in labor law, I believe that labor law is a very powerful thing to learn about because back when I was before law school, Your Honor, I observed and I became open. My eyes were open to the reality that it is more often the case that employees are not really treated well by their employers. It's I became um, aware of that imbalance between the power between the employer and the employee. And actually, in my first job, fresh from college, which is in the Sisit Gores Velayo and company, um, my colleagues and I, my batchmates and I, were witnessed some of these labor injustices, Your Honor, and it was really painful for me to see that some labor laws were not really strictly followed, Your Honor. So that is why my heart is really in labor law, because I commiserate with employees who are not being treated fairly. I commiserate and I understand uh, the the uh, the the heartaches. And if ever I'll be a lawyer, which I hope I will be a lawyer in the future, that is one of my main advocacies, Your Honor, labor law.
You you are already on your fifth year in law school. Based on your experience, observation, information, what are the common problems of law students?
Well, first and foremost, Your Honor, I think from my experience, one of the most um, important problems of law students is not knowing how to study the law.
Why so? What is the cause of that?
Uh, I
Is it
think,
method of teaching by some law professors?
honestly, Your Honor, it's not really just about the method of teaching, but more on uh, some students do not know how to organize their thoughts, Your Honor. They do not know how to organize, um, how to methodically study the law. So what they do is just read one case after the other, and some students do not even they are not mindful of uh, drawing insights from the law, from the legal provisions, from the jurisprudence that they read as they read it.
Is it because of lack of preparation or training or deficiency during their pre-law course, do you think?
I
They
do
were
not
not
believe
properly trained?
I do not believe so, Your Honor, because in my
Because I know
experience,
that the University of the Philippines conduct an entrance examination, correct?
yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, I do not believe that the pre-law of a law student, the pre-law course of a law student, is the factor in that problem. Because I have classmates, I have batchmates in law school who took their pre-law course in very different fields, such as I have a classmate who is a graduate of molecular biology and biotechnology. I have a classmate who is a doctor of medicine, and they are doing well, Your Honor, in law school. So,
So if you sit in the legal education board, what specific proposals will you make to address these common problems of law students in school?
Your Honor, one of my proposals, if ever I will be appointed, is for to encourage law schools to institute more clinical legal education classes, Your Honor. Because for example, in my case, it has been a very huge uh, learning experience for me in my current internship at the UP College of Law, because if when I was in first year, I just merely learn about the law, the jurisprudence. But now in my internship, I get to apply them. I get to see them in action, and it facilitates learning, Your Honor. Also, as an educator, as a lecturer, I have learned through experience, through my own personal experience, through my students' experience, that a person learns better, so much better, when he is able to apply for himself a certain concept, not just reading it, not just rereading it, but to apply it. So that's what I believe, Your Honor. There has to be more. There has to be more opportunities for law students to apply what they have learned in
In
order
your
to.
opinion, in your opinion, do you think law schools should adopt a common or a consistent methodology of teaching the law? Or you will just allow law schools in the exercise of their academic freedom to adopt various methodology of their own liking as a member of the lab?
Your Honor, as a member of the LEB, of course, also in view of the ruling of the Supreme Court in the case of Pimentel versus Legal Education Board, I believe that the Legal Education Board cannot impose on law schools what their curriculum should look like, because that would encroach upon the academic freedom of law schools. So, as a member of the Legal Education Board, we cannot impose on law schools to adopt a certain method or a common method to all law schools, because in it that would encroach upon their academic freedom. What I propose, if ever I will be appointed to the LEB, to the Legal Education Board, is, since the LEB cannot directly they cannot directly dictate on law schools what to teach, then the LEB may indirectly do that. How? By monitoring the bar performance of law schools, and to really strictly implement or enforce the standards of accreditation, such that if law schools do not perform well in the bar exam, they risk having their accreditation revoked. So I believe in that manner, Your Honor, indirectly, law schools would be minded to fix their curriculum.
In your opinion, is the bar examinations a qualifying examinations or a disqualifying examination?
Your Honor, is it my opinion on what is the current state or what it should be?
In your opinion, I'm
In my,
asking.
in my opinion, well, Your Honor, in my opinion,
The law student who will prepare for the bar examinations and who might be appointed to the legal education board. What is your attitude? What is your philosophy about the bar examinations? Is it a qualifying examinations or is it a disqualifying examinations?
Your Honor, my philosophy on the bar exam is that it is a qualifying examination, because it merely seeks to determine who among the bar examinees, who among these law graduates, possess the necessary capacity in order to practice law. So it's not. Uh, I believe that that is what the bar exam should be. It's more geared towards selecting who are qualified, rather than rather than shutting out those who are disqualified.
Is the word qualifying and the word disqualifying mutually exclusive, in your opinion?
In Your Honor, in my opinion, they are not. They're not really mutually exclusive, because necessarily, to qualify several people to the practice of law would necessarily disqualify some other people from the practice of law. But in the earlier question on my philosophy, that is my philosophy, that it should be viewed as a qualifying examination.
You are a law student in the University of the Philippines. You have read in the past few days the news about Secretary Lorenzana of the Department of National Defense unilaterally revoking the UP-DND Accord of 1981, which is the Soto and Rile Accord, the UP-DND Accord of 1989, which is the Abueva Ramos Accord, and it was also followed by another accord. And one of the reasons given by government was that slowly the University of the Philippines has become a safe haven for enemies of the state. My question is, do you feel insulted by that statement?
Not really, Your Honor. I just believe that Secretary Lorenzana is misinformed as to what is actually happening inside the university. I'm not insulted because I do not ascribe bad faith immediately to people whom I do not know. What I believe that the good secretary uh, is doing in unilaterally abrogating the accord is that they are probably misinformed, Your Honor. They are probably basing their decision on observations on a very, very, very small select group of UP students, and thereafter generalizing, Your Honor, their observations towards the whole UP community. So it's not. I'm not insulted, Your Honor. I just
In
believe that he is misinformed.
your opinion, based on your experience and observation, are there students in the university who adhere to the concept of communism?
Mm, in my experience, Your Honor, it's very. I have a limited experience because I come from the accountancy program, Your Honor. But in my limited experience, I do not know of anyone, Your Honor.
Now, assuming that there are students who adhere to the concept of communism, is there anything legally or constitutionally wrong about that?
Your Honor, there isn't anything constitutionally wrong about communism because at its core, communism is really, in my understanding of communism, it is it is an economic system, Your Honor. I am not really quite well versed on that, but I believe that it is an economic system, Your Honor, as opposed to capitalism. So what the beliefs of those who ascribe to communism.
What about student activism? What is your understanding of student activism?
Your Honor, my understanding of that that is the students' exercise of their right to freedom of speech, Your Honor, to call out the powers that be, whenever they have committed certain mistakes in their opinion. So, for me, activism is merely that. It's a healthy exercise of students' right to
Now,
freedom of speech.
law students who are enrolled in law schools are expected to study the law, to concentrate on the law, so that when they become lawyers, they become beneficial members of society. In your opinion, is it permissible for law students to engage in student activism?
Your Honor, I believe it is permissible, Your Honor, because I believe that actually law students are in a special position, Your Honor, because they study the law. So they would know what actions of certain of public officers are outside the bounds of law. So they are in the best position to educate other people on what the law is and how it should be followed, not just by ordinary citizens, but public officers as well, because that is what rule of law is all about.
Now, as a member of the Legal Education Board representing the student sector, will you advocate immersion by law students outside of the school to observe incidents of social injustice?
I, for me, Your Honor, I believe that that can be studied, Your Honor. But for me, that would be um, not completely necessary, Your Honor. There would be a more administratively feasible way in order for law students to be exposed to realities, to social injustices, without having to travel somewhere else outside the school. For example, indeed, the um, legal education clinics, Your Honor, the internships, legal internships, such as, for example, in the UP College of Law, Your Honor, there's the Office of Legal Aid. And in the Office of Legal Aid, students, the law students, are indeed exposed to social injustices already, Your Honor. Um,
Is it permissible for law students to go out of the classroom and participate in protest demonstrations on the streets in the exercise of their academic freedom? Is that an exercise of academic freedom to redress perceived grievances against the government?
Your Honor, that is not so much as an exercise of academic freedom as it is an exercise of their freedom of speech, Your Honor. So, in my opinion, it is permissible for law students to head outside of the classroom. But of course, my experience is based on my experience. My answer is based on my experience in UP Law, where our professors uh, sometimes are the ones initiating for us to take action and not be oblivious to the realities around us and not be confined to the four corners of the law school.
In your opinion, will a law student learn more inside the classroom or outside of the classroom, insofar as the law is concerned?
Your Honor, I think law students would learn more um, outside, Your Honor. But I do not necessarily mean that it is outside the law school. In your question, Your Honor, it is whether it's inside or outside the classroom, Your Honor. And I believe that they will be learning more outside the classroom because, again, my philosophy is that learning is not just knowing what the concepts are, but applying them. And there's no better way to apply what they learn inside the classroom but to head outside the classroom and, for example, enroll in internship programs, Your Honor.
Now, traditionally, the methodology of teaching for many years was for professors to go to school, to go to the classroom and lecture to the student, explain to the students what the law is, and the students take down notes. But recently, law schools have adopted the case method system, correct? And apparently, law professors are just assigning their students, law students, to read so many cases, analyze the case, and find out the ruling of the courts and the jurisprudence promulgated by the courts. In your opinion, as a prospective member of the LEB, Is that a more effective method of teaching than the traditional way of teaching?
I agree, Your Honor. That is the case method is a more effective way of teaching. I believe,
Why is it more effective?
Your Honor, it is more effective because when students read jurisprudence, when they read cases assigned to them, they are they see how the court applies the law. And then when they read another case, Your Honor, which has probably a different ruling, they will notice that there's a different ruling and they will seek the reason why there's a different ruling. So in my opinion, Your Honor, the mere lecturing in a classroom and the students just taking down notes, it is not effective because there is no application. Again, Your Honor, I believe that it is the application of the law which will make law students learn more. And precisely reading Supreme Court decisions, reading how the justices applied the law to a case, and reading how Supreme Court justices ruled in a different manner in another case, it would show them the nuances of the law and would better explain to them what the law is all about.
But the traditional way of teaching, the professors also cites Supreme Court decisions. But probably what I'm saying is that is it more effective for a law professor to lecture and teach or for a law professor to conduct recitations to find out if the students have read the assignment?
Your Honor, it is more effective to conduct recitations rather than just lecturing because the difference for me, the difference between the two is in lecturing, it is merely a passive form of learning, Your Honor. However, if it is the law student who himself or herself reads cases and analyzes the issues and distills the ruling, that is a more active form of learning, Your Honor, and it will make the law student retain and understand the law better.
What is the reason, Earl, why a person should listen?
Your Honor, a person should listen in order to understand the side of another person. Uh, Listening should not be just listening for the sake of thinking about what one's response should be, but
But
listening.
when a law professor goes inside the classroom and conducts recitation, and the students listen, are the students listening to understand the law? Or are they listening to reply to the question of the professor during recitations?
I guess, Your Honor, the law students would listen for both reasons, Your Honor, to be able to understand the law and also to be able to reply to any question that the law professor might have for them.
Inside the classroom, should law students be taught and educated to become lawyers? Or should students be taught and educated to do critical thinking to become judges?
Your Honor, I believe that law students should be taught how to be lawyers, Your Honor, because not every law student, anyway, would want to be a magistrate. However, but that does not mean that teaching a law student to become a lawyer does not entail critical thinking. In the opposite, becoming a lawyer necessarily requires also critical thinking, but probably not
Are
in the
lawyers,
same.
are lawyers allowed to do critical thinking? Isn't it that lawyers are trained to understand and know the law and to follow the law. That's why the Supreme Court has enunciated that ignorance of the law does not excuse. Are you saying that law students should, in addition to understanding and knowing the law, should also do critical thinking and ascertain what is wrong with the law?
If that is the question, Your Honor, it's not. I believe it's not the province of a law school to teach law students to see what is wrong with the law, because the province of law schools is to teach law students what the law is, and in that manner, um, in my, pardon me, Your Honor, my understanding of critical thinking um, is that it means be something beyond just merely knowing concepts, but applying them in real life situations. That's what I was uh, in, implying by saying critical thinking is also required of lawyers.
Critical thinking would include ascertaining the
Mhm.
wisdom of the law, correct? If it was a wise law or an unwise law, so you do critical thinking. But shouldn't that thing be appertained to judges and magistrates rather than to law students? Because law students, you're supposed to know the law, you're supposed to know jurisprudence and follow it, whether you agree or disagree with it, correct? You're not supposed to engage in critical thinking, isn't it?
Your Honor,
Uh,
in the
my other question, Earl, is you're an honor student, an applicant for the LEB regular member representing law students. What is your understanding of the non-numerical scalar grading system?
non-numerical scalar, um, I believe, Your Honor, that has something to do with moving away from numerical grades, Your Honor, and
You
in by
mentioned it earlier. You mentioned it in you mentioned it earlier. So what is it? What is it in layman's term?
uh,
You mentioned it. Pass or fail.
yes, Your Honor.
Is that good? Is that okay to be adopted in the bar examinations?
Your Honor, in my opinion, that is a very good decision, Your Honor, on the part of the Supreme Court.
Is that okay to be adopted as a grading system in school, in law school?
In law school, Your Honor, I believe it is not wise to do that, Your Honor,
Why not?
Be- because uh, law schools necessarily, in their exercise of academic freedom, they have the discretion on who to admit as law students, who to teach, and who shall remain as law students. And I believe, Your Honor, it will be difficult for law schools to gauge who shall remain and who shall be expelled as law students if the grading system is merely pass or fail.
So you're saying, but earlier when I asked you a question, you said that academic freedom dictates that the LEB cannot tell law schools to adopt a consistent, common methodology. Is
That is true.
that
That is true, Your Honor.
what you're saying? So you're saying that in the LEB, you will tell law schools you cannot adopt pass or fail. That's what you're saying in the
And
grading system?
no, Your Honor. I recognize that law schools have their academic freedom, and if I will be appointed as a member of the LEB, of course, the LEB cannot impose on law schools that they have to adopt this grading system or not. Of course, that is just my opinion, Your Honor, what I mentioned earlier. And if law schools, in their discretion, see that it is wise for them to adopt such a system, a pass or fail system, then that is good enough for the LEB, Your Honor. That the LEB cannot do anything about that.
All right. That's my last question. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Honorable Justice Noel Jimenez Siham. The next to interview our applicant is Honorable Judge Toribio E. Ilaw Jr.
Yes, thank you, Attorney Winnie. Yes, Mr. L. Anthony Villar.
Good
Do I-
morning, Your Honor.
Good morning. This is do I understand that you are in the 5th year of your law course?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And you are quite an erudite fellow, simply having or sharing great knowledge or learning. Am I correct? Since your application letter is like a memorandum, is there is there anything you think you lack? Galing mo eh.
Your Honor, of course, I do not believe that I have all the qualities in the world, Your Honor. Of course, um, at the moment, I am not yet a lawyer, Your Honor. So I do
Yes,
not have the necessary experience that a lawyer has. So that is one thing I lack, Your Honor. I know my place, Your Honor. I know that I'm merely a law student. I know the limits of my capabilities. And I know that I am not equal yet to lawyers.
we cannot even address you as Panye because you're not yet a graduate.
Yes.
Because commonly a lawyer, we call a lawyer compañero or compañera. You have any girlfriend?
At the moment, Your Honor, no, sir. It is
Maybe lacking also. That is a love life.
Your Honor, I have long forgotten about that since entering law school.
There's a saying that as if you're wasting your half of your life being a law student. Do you believe in such saying?
Of course, Your Honor, it's not a total waste, Your Honor. It's not a waste being a law student. It's a very enriching experience, actually. And I believe after law school, then if ever I'll become a lawyer, then that will be the time for me to catch up, Your Honor, on my social care. Probably, I'm not sure.
But you're already 27 years old. And by the time you become a lawyer, you're going to be 28 or 29?
28, Your Honor. Hopefully, Your Honor.
Hopefully. All right. But you had such a relationship before, even in your undergrad.
Your Honor, no, not also, Your Honor.
Not also. All right. I don't know whether this question has been already asked in relation to an opposition file against you, stating that your social media posts displayed partisan posts against the government and that you exhibited a condescending tone to those who do not share your views. Is this opposition the reason why you deactivated your Facebook account?
Your Honor, I have not deactivated my Facebook account.
Are you sure?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you certain? But
I am certain. I'm certain, Your Honor. I am under oath, Your Honor.
Yes, sir. All right, and even you stated in your comment to the opposition that your, and I quote, political views are not related to your fitness, capacity, and qualifications. Do you think you will be nominated and appointed nonetheless?
Well, Your Honor, my philosophy in applying for this position is that I just present myself as myself to the council. And of course, it is up to the council in its wide discretion and up to the president in his discretion who to nominate or appoint. So I believe that for me, I do not mind if I will not be nominated or appointed as long as I have presented to the council myself and what I can offer.
Alright, in your application letters, likewise, you stated that you have regularly completed all your subjects without dropping, taking a leave of absence, underloading, or incurring any failing marks. You also stated that you graduated from UP with a degree of Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and Accountancy, a quota program which only accepts the top 100 applicants annually and is notorious for having the most number of aspirants every year. Based on your statements, do you think you are more qualified than other applicants for the position?
Well, Your Honor, I am not, I do not personally know the other applicants, but in my opinion, I have one of the strongest resumes, Your Honor, because in my background as a business administration and accountancy major, Your Honor, and as a CPA, I learned that I share that with some previous members of the Legal Education Board. Uh, I I believe that in the past year, there are three members of the Legal Education Board who are certified public accountants. So I believe that my resume, my qualifications and credentials, is one of the strongest.
Harriet, being a JD student and a vice president for finance of the UP Law, is this Charivari?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ay,
Charivari, Your Honor.
Charivari.
Yes, Your Honor.
What's that term for this? Charivari. It's a UP Law choral.
Yes, Your Honor. That's a organization, Your Honor, a student organization focused on music.
Music, I still remember, but UP Madrigal Sisters, Tagalog.
Ah,
I'll
that's
still
a
see
that's a different group,
a
Your Honor.
different one. UP Law, it's Charivari. That's still
It's a local organization, Your Honor. It's only in the College of Law.
College of Law.
Mm.
But you don't belong to any frat in the College of Law?
No, Your Honor.
Not even a Rossi,
No, yeah.
Lonsi?
No, no, Your Honor.
Wala. Sige.
Just that org, Your Honor.
And with such positions, do you think you can still manage to perform the duties and responsibilities of a legal education board member if nominated and appointed? You still have time?
Yes, Your Honor. I am positive that I can do that because I have actually I can demonstrate that I have done that I can do that because I have had work experience in the past, Your Honor. For example, my previous employment was a full-time engagement at the UP Law Complex, Your Honor, and that would show that I am indeed capable of juggling work and studies at the same time.
By the way, you have a deposits in your PDS 900 600 what's this 966,272 and a cash deposit in cash in 2019 sa Allen 740,799.70 and your sal ends in 2019 you have 1,654,927.61. Is this your own?
Your Honor, I'm not sure if those figures are correct, but
all right, please look at your records.
Let me. Your Honor, in my submitted sworn salin, Your Honor, the net worth is 915,069 and 78 centavos. not 1 million, as you mentioned. But
Cash deposit. Yes, please.
But to answer your question, Your Honor, while it indeed looks suspicious or interesting,
No,
no,
there's no
Your Honor,
such blend
Your
of
Honor, that is not my money, Your Honor.
that is not your.
The reason that I needed to include that in my SALN is because some of these cash deposits are in a joint account, in an and or joint account with some of my relatives. But in truth, as of course, in reality, I have no control or dominion over those accounts, Your Honor. I just needed to include that in my SALN because they are indeed, my name is indeed included. But I do not, in to borrow legal terms, Your Honor, I do not have the beneficial interest on those accounts.
Remember again, Mr. Bautista, that you're under oath. Now
Yes,
you're saying that's not true, that you have an account?
No, no, Your Honor. I'm not saying that I do not have account. What I'm saying is these accounts, while they are named in my name, they are in an and or capacity with some of my relatives. It is their money, not mine. But I just needed to include this in my SALN because these are indeed in my name. What I am saying, Your Honor, is that I do not have control over these accounts, Your Honor. In fact, I just learned that I have these accounts when I asked around my relatives because I saw that in the PDS, Your Honor, in the personal data sheet, I needed to include a waiver of my bank secrecy, of the bank secrecy laws. And under that portion, I needed to include, to itemize what bank deposits I have. And under that, there's a waiver including uh, a waiver including the co-depositor. So I was very prudent, Your Honor. I asked around some of my relatives, is there a bank account in an and or capacity in my name? And that's only the time. That's the only time I learned, Your Honor. And I included them, in fact,
And
in
were
the
you,
waiver.
was there an occasion that you asked your relatives why such accounts is under your name? Any purpose?
I believe, Your Honor, that's a common practice for probably estate planning, Your Honor. I'm not really sure.
A
If
common practice?
I did not
You're an
inquire.
accountant. You're an accountant. You know for the
Yes, Your Honor.
purpose of this. You know the purpose of putting it all this in your name
I
or
uh, I think that is a an estate planning device, Your Honor.
excuse me,
Estate planning device.
estate planning device. By the way, where are you residing?
In Mandaluyong, Your Honor.
Where in Mandaluyong? Acropolis subdivision?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're living alone?
Sorry, Your
Not
Honor.
with your parents?
Right currently now, Your Honor, I live with my parents because of the pandemic.
Only now. But before the pandemic, you're living at your own.
I am renting a condominium unit near UP, along Katipunan.
Along Katipunan natin CP Garcia?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Arat, can you cite a specific instance when you have inspired or moved your fellow law students to do and be better in terms of academics or social responsibility?
Your Honor, one instance that I have inspired my um, classmates to do better in academics is when I volunteered to conduct a review session with them in order to review ourselves for our taxation exam. I volunteered because I observed that some of my classmates have a hard time understanding taxation law. And since I believe that I was in a better position to understand the law, I tapped some of my other classmates who are also CPAs, and I told them that maybe we should conduct some review, so in order for us to be able to all pass taxation law.
What is the Legal Education Fund?
Sorry, Your Honor.
Legal Education Fund.
Legal Education Fund. Um, I believe, Your Honor, that is an amount which is part of the filing fees, Your Honor, in courts and in quasi-judicial bodies, which is to be forwarded to. Uh, wait, I must be thinking of another legal education fund. Uh, the legal education fund, I believe that's a fund for the advancement of legal educations, Your Honor. I know that there's a legal education fund that accrues towards the UP Law Complex, Your Honor. Is that the legal education fund that you are adverting to?
Are you asking me, or is that your answer?
That's my answer, Your Honor.
It's wrong. Art, what kindly see after this interview, Section 11, Republic Act 7662, or the Legal Education Reform Act.
Okay, Your Honor. Thank you. Thank you for that, Your Honor.
Art, what do you think is the value of the Legal Education Board to legal education?
Your Honor, the Legal Education Board, since it is the body which is tasked to administer legal education, then it is it is the body, it is the means by which the state, in the exercise of its police power and reasonable regulation, to ensure that the graduates of law schools would be fit and qualified to serve the public in the future as lawyers. So that's the value of the Legal Education Board, to ensure that the future graduates of law schools are in fact in a position to serve the public as a lawyer.
And that we consider as one of the objectives of the Legal Education Board, that is to prepare students for the practice of law, to impart among law students a broad knowledge of law and its various fields and of legal institutions. With all the objectives of the Legal Education Board, and you being a law student, how will you attain these objectives given that you have no experience yet about the practice of law?
Your Honor, I believe that as a law student representative, what I will be bringing to the table in the Legal Education Board is my perspective as a law student. So I believe that in that context, I am qualified because number one, I am a law student, but more than that, I have professional experience already. So it would not be difficult for me to be able to keep up with my other more experienced colleagues in the Legal Education Board.
And do you think that law schools are considered as equalizers?
I agree, Your Honor. I
Why do
agree.
you say? Why do you agree?
Because, Your Honor, whatever the background of a law student is, and in fact, I have classmates who come from very different backgrounds, very uh, disparate backgrounds. Whatever the background is, there is no way of telling who will be excelling or who will not be excelling in law school. So I believe in that manner, Your Honor. The law school is an equalizing experience because it does not really matter what your background is. We law students, we are all equal. We are all back to square one in law school.
What are the current issues in your school that you think that the legal education board could address?
Well, Your Honor, if I am not mistaken, uh, I believe that the UP College of Law has is in the position that it is not under the supervision of the Legal Education Board because of its autonomous status under its charter. So I believe that if we are talking about the UP College of Law, the Legal Education Board has a limited power. But if it's other law schools, then the Legal Education Board can partake, can regulate and supervise those law schools.
Do you think that a law student's failure to correctly answer during recitation justifies the law professor's act of throwing a book, throwing a book, an eraser? I remember that we had the professor of that with the gesture of not receiving a sensible answer, a responsive one, act of throwing a book or an eraser and storming out of a classroom.
Your Honor, I do not believe that should be that should be acceptable, Your Honor. Because that is already violence, Your Honor. The
It's
act
not
of
violence,
throwing.
just act of throwing it, just a gesture of just
Ah,
jokingly.
the gesture, Your Honor. If it's just the gesture, Your Honor, then I believe there would not be anything wrong about that. Also, the storming out of the professor, there's nothing wrong about that, Your Honor. It just shows the displeasure of the professor in his students' non-preparation for the
Okay.
class.
Do you have a professor like that? You mentioned about the Professor Minyosa.
Mm, sorry, Your Honor.
You have a professor like that?
In law, in UP College
Like,
of Law. No, no, Your Honor. We do
no.
not. We do not.
You mentioned about Professor Minyosa in relation to architect Minyosa. Is it Minyosa
Uh, i- yes, Your Honor. There is a Professor Minyosa in the UP College of Law.
in relation to the architect, the well-known architect?
I do not. Sorry, Your Honor. I do not know that architect.
All right. What are your thoughts on the proposed amendment of Republic Act number 7662, which seeks to remove law students from the representation in the Legal Education Board?
Oh, Your Honor. I believe that is not a wise amendment, Your Honor, because precisely the concept of legal education uh, should be there should be a voice in the legal education board. There should be a voice coming from each stakeholder in legal education, and law students are as
Because
much as sorry, Your Honor. Law students are as much a stakeholder than law professors, than the IBP, the um, the law practitioners, because precisely law students are the receivers of legal education. So I believe it would not be wise to remove representatives of law students in the legal education board who are in fact the direct receiver of legal education.
And for practical reason, experience-wise in the JBC, those are law students applying as a representative of the law students in the JBC. By the time they're going to be appointed, they're no longer a law student. In your case, that am I correct to say that you're going to graduate this coming July?
Your Honor, yes, Your Honor.
And by the time you're going to be nominated and appointed, you will no longer be a law student.
That is a possibility, Your Honor, that I was alerted to before.
Okay. All right. My last question, Earl. What is brought to the table and cut, but never eaten?
What is brought to the table
and cut,
but never eaten? Experience, Your Honor?
Experience. You're going to bring experience in the table? What kind of experience? I'm going to bring it in the table and cut it.
I believe when you say you say you cut the experience, maybe you impart your experience, Your Honor. My experience, Your Honor.
Your experience, but never eaten.
Yes, Your Honor. It's just.
Can you eat your experience?
You cannot, Your Honor. You cannot.
All right, sige. Paki-google mo na lang yan. Thank you, Earl. And
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Judge Toribio Ilaw. The next interviewer for...
Thank you, Attorney.
Yes po. The next interviewer and our last for this morning is Honorable Justice Jose Catral Mendoza. Justice Mendoza.
Thank you, Attorney Queenie.
Welcome po.
Good morning, Mr. Bautista.
Good morning, Your Honor.
I have read your records and your answers to the questions. And I will just ask some questions. I'm adapting the questions of my colleague. It's regarding your bank accounts. How much of this are your own? What account? Only First Metro Securities?
Your Honor, let me refer to my records, Your Honor.
Yes, yes.
Your Honor, are you looking at my SALN or my PDS?
Yes, this is your PDS.
PDS, yeah.
First Metro Securities, it appears that this is in your name solely, right?
That is correct, Your Honor. So
yeah,
to answer,
the Bank of PI Family Savings, and BPI Investment Management, you have a joint you are a joint depositor with your mother in BPI Family Savings with your grandparents, and BPI Investment Management with your mother. Earlier, you mentioned, I don't tell me if I'm wrong. This is not your own.
Your Honor, let me explain further, Your Honor. When I said earlier that this is not my own, what I merely meant was that I do not have control over these accounts, but they are indeed in a joint account which bears my name.
Your name. And
yes,
you
Your
earn
Honor.
them on your...
No, Your Honor. Those are not my money, Your Honor. Those are merely in my name. Those are
joint accounts. Those are joint accounts.
Yes,
that
Your
in
Honor.
case something happens to your mother or your grandparents, you can withdraw them.
Yes, I believe
You have
that's
siblings?
I have one sibling, Your Honor.
You're an only child,
No, I have a sibling, Your Honor.
and he knows about this.
Uh,
Because if
I
you withdraw them, he will be deprived of
mm,
something due to him.
well, Your Honor, my sister, Your Honor, I think I don't really ask my parents about their finances, Your Honor, but I believe
But this is in your account. You should know something about this. Do they have instructions regarding this accounts? What will you do if something happens to them?
they at present, Your Honor, they do not have any instructions, probably because they do not want to think about that possibility, Your Honor.
Not yet, because
Uh,
according to you, it is somewhat a form of estate planning, right?
I believe so, Your Honor.
So by doing this, you will be able to avoid payment of estate tax.
Yes, Your Honor. I believe I believe that's a possibility because actually even the Supreme Court, Your Honor, has recognized these kinds of arrangements.
Arrangement. But because you inherit them, you will not be filing estate taxes because you are admitting that they are not yours.
Your Honor, I believe if there's a survivorship agreement, Your Honor, that would be a valid estate planning device as Supreme
Yes,
Court.
I know it's a valid planning estate device, but should you not ask them that please that portion and another portion be donated to you so you can just file pay off, they can just file a donor's tax. 6% naman ngayon, mababa na. I think
Yes, Your Honor.
you did, you have studied, you finished taxation, right?
I have, Your Honor.
And also you're a business graduate.
I am, Your Honor.
Oh, but this should not be a tax avoidance device. Estate planning, yes. Oh, well, it's
As
up to you.
it's
Oh,
I haven't talked
uh,
about that with my parents, Your Honor, but maybe I will, Your Honor, after this.
yes, you have a sibling. He may be deprived. I'm not insinuating anything. Because you are a joint depositor, you can withdraw the amount, and because you admitted that they are not really yours. So it's really up to you and your family regarding that and the government. Anyway, those are all my only questions. I have heard your answers extensively to the questions of my colleagues. Thank you very much, Mr. Bautista.
Thank you very
Plan.
much, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, that will be all.
Thank you,
Okay,
Honorable Justice
very
Jose Catral Mendoza. Thank you, Mr. Bautista. That concludes our first part of the public panel interview for today.